in which God uses objectionable experiences to serve our good. Okay? So we're going to start off with our focus lesson, and it's very short. And the name, again, is Divine Timing. And as an educator, I like to ask, what do you think this story is about, by asking, what does this word mean to you? What do you think divine means? What do you think divine means? Any hands? Any hands? Thank you. Holy, pure, perfect, incapable of any wrongdoing. So the title "Divine Timing" is perfect for what we're going to discuss today, because God is divine. There's not a single cell in Him to to identify Him as being wrong or imperfect or anything like that. So all of the attributes that were said, the holy, perfect, um, it just immeasurable. You can't even put a description on God because you limit Him. Okay, so we're going to start with our focus. Focus. It's about a little girl, and I'm not going to insult your intelligence, but I'm just going to summarize it up. There was a little girl in the kitchen watching her mom, so watching her mother cook. So she looked out the window and she saw that the leaves were changing from the summer to the fall colors. And she said, "Mom, why do leaves change?" And the mother said, "Because it's in God's time." But the little girl thought that it was all about the makeup of the trees, the chlorophyll dried up, and things of that nature. She said that may be true, but everything in life has a season, and that is why the leaves change. And that's just like God picks our time for our season. We don't want to think about anything on the other side as far as leaving this world, but God has a season for all of us. Okay, so we're going to talk about the lesson this morning, and it is from Ecclesiastes, which I already said. And Solomon is the author of Ecclesiastes. And let me start out with this: to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Let that marinate in your mind, and we're going to see and study how everything does have a season. Okay. Solomon was the author of Ecclesiastes, and he was pondering, what is life all about? Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I feel down, and I'm just paraphrasing how the words that described him. Um, he was thinking to himself, is life really worth living? And he was convinced that life was meaningless and without purpose. But then he came to his senses. He came to his senses, and this is where the human nature of all of us come in, because all of us have gone through all of these things before. And I'm going to read the KJV, the King James Version. In Ecclesiastes, and which I just read, chapter 3, verse 1, to everything there's a season and a time to every purpose under the sun, where there are 28 attributes of what we go through as humans, and to show our human frailty. We can make good decisions, good choices, or we can make bad choices. But the first one is, there's a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. So there's a little line between birth and death. Okay, so what are these things that we do in between? There's a time to kill and a time to heal. There's a time to break down and a time to what? Build up. Number 4, there's a time to weep and a time to laugh. There's a time to mourn and a time to dance. And we're going to talk about all of those things that have affected us in our own lives. Okay. Number 5, there's a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. There's a time to get and a time to lose. There's a time to keep and a time to cast away. There's a time to rend, which means to tear something up, to tear it apart, and a time to sew, to put it back together or put something together, and a time to keep silence, and a time to speak. There's a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. Which one of those resonated with you that impacted your human frailty? Because we all have gone through all of these things before. I can give you one right here. There's a time to get and a time to cast away. I'm not quite a hoarder, but I don't like to throw things away. Yeah. But I am working on that because I say, well, sometimes, I can give things away because some people can use them. I finished using them or I haven't used them at all, but I just don't want to give them away because they still had the tag on them. Yes, yes, yes. So that's my I'm sharing that with you, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Would anybody else like to share? Have you seen yourself in any of these good or bad? Anybody want to share? And we all know that we all have been born, but we know that there's a season for us that when God calls us home, our season is up. Mhm.
I can talk loud. It's for me. It's when a time of peace, and that's for me right now. That's all I want is peace. There's turmoil all around us, and he says that there's war, but I want peace. I want peace not just within myself, but I want peace everywhere.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And you know what? Whatever decision we make will impact us. It will have an effect on us, whether we make a good choice or a choice that is not so favorable for us. I like the other. I like the verse that says there's a time to be silent and a time to speak. And I know that in some of our Bible class courses, that Reverend Beard and Reverend and Dr. Sala has said, you don't need to respond to everything and to everybody. If the Lord say don't speak, it's not time to speak. Follow what the Lord says, because when you open your mouth, you can't get those words back. Okay? Okay. So anyway, that's what Solomon wrote, and we're going to talk about how these list of things that he said affects us. Okay, we already established that Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes. Okay. Okay, as we begin our lesson, we find Solomon, the writer of Ecclesiastes, contemplating his own life. Was his own life worth living? He felt that life was boring sometimes, and then he felt that it was full of vexation. What does that word mean to you? Vexation, when something vexes you. It gets on your nerves, it bothers you, it's almost like an invisible something on you and you just can't shake it off. So he was going through this. He felt that all is vanity. What is vanity to you all? He felt that life was vanity. I'm thinking in the terms of vanity that he was prideful at times, that he thought he was better than other people. But he was rich and he had kingdoms and castles and just servants and everything. So he was rich. So I'm thinking that he thought that if when he had vanity, that he was better than the poor people who were working to help maintain what he did have. But then there came vexation, that something that came to haunt him, something that came about and he couldn't shake it off. Anybody want to speak to that? Anybody have anything to say to that? The key to okay, and the key to living your best life is when you're going through certain things that you're not comfortable with, that your body, that your mind, that your heart is telling you that it's just keeping you down. It's just keeping you at a certain point. I like to think of it, but God. Put it in God's hands. But God. The key to living your best life is to have a relationship with God, because God created us from beginning to the end. God created every living thing here on this earth, and that includes us, plants, animals, everything, birds that fly in the air, everything. And so the key to understanding what life is all about starts with God, because God created everything in life. Are there any questions that I want this to be interactive? If you have any comments, you feel free to raise your hands. All things have validity. All things have validity. All of us have validity. What is that? What is validity, or when something validates, when someone validates you? What is that all about? Yes, you have value. Don't let anyone say that you're nothing, you're nobody, you'll never. We heard, some of us heard those things when we were growing up. You'll never be anything, you'll never amount to anything. But guess what? But God. Yes, but God. We all have validity in whatever gifts God has put in us. Some of us, we're good with our hands. Some of us are good with thinking and with teaching. God gives all of us several gifts. He distributed gifts according to what he felt you could handle. Okay, so if I were to ask you a question, what is your giftedness that God endowed in you? What would you say? What would be your response? What I love teaching. I love children and I love teaching. Stronger faith, yes. You're growing, and every day your faith gets stronger and stronger. That's wonderful. Anybody else want to share the gifts that God has endowed or implanted in you that says you are valid? God has validated you. Yes, service to others. Yes. The Did you want to say something over here? Okay. The key to life is found only in God, because God created life. It's not found in our wealth, our money, our jobs, our cars, our homes. It is found in God, because God created everything that has life and can breathe. Okay? God has a purpose for all of us. There is no such thing as, and I say this and I mean it, there is no such thing as an oops baby. When people say, oh, he was my oops baby, she was, there's no such thing. To me, some of y'all may have different opinions, but God has a purpose for that child. And if God intended for that child to be here, he blessed whoever is carrying that child, whoever, you know, the father and the mother, he blessed them to have that child. Yes. And I don't say, oops, I say that child has a purpose. That child has been validated by God when he went before and when God sent him on this earth. Okay. Does anybody want to make any comments? Would you like to make any comments, Dr. Hop? We are talking about the things that Solomon pondered over about his life and about life on earth, period. Okay. Yes. Oh, thank you. Um, it also says, because God has purpose us to serve him and to have a purpose here on earth while we're here, we ought to serve God. And our main purpose for being here on earth is to what? Praise God, is to give him honor, glory, and everything, all the accolades that are due him. God has a divine time for all of life's activities, events here on earth. That includes the good with the bad. When we recognize and understand that we will be more equipped to serve God, to go through whatever trials or tribulations we go through, the issues of life that may come our way, we are equipped because we know that God has a purpose for us, that God has validated us, and he is the source of all our being, of everything we have, of everything we are, and of everything that we do. The first thing one must do is to understand that God has divine sovereignty. Sovereignty. What is sovereignty? And I know you've heard that word before. God has divine sovereignty. Right. God is separate. He has divine control, authority. Anywhere his hand, anywhere his eyes see, anywhere his feet may go, he has divine authority. Okay. So God has the divine authority over all the earth because he created everything in the earth. The first thing we must do is to give him the praise that he so rightly deserves. God created the world and he created us to be connected to him so that when we understand God's authority or sovereignty, we will be much better equipped to handle anything that may come our way because we know that God is with us. Sometimes we go through life and we feel that we don't feel his presence, we don't see him, we don't know that he's there, but guess what? We go through it and God brings us out on and gives us the victory for all things. Okay, and stop me if you want to make any comments, if you have any questions. God's peace passes all understanding. Sometimes I will throw things down, just throw them down. I don't know where they are and everything when I go to look for them again. And because I have the peace of God, he directs me to it. And I don't say, how did that get there? I don't know how did I just say thank you, Lord, because you showed me where it was. My keys, for instance, I would tear up the sofa, and I know I'm not by myself. I would tear up the cushions in the sofa and look down this way and look down this way. But when God speaks to you, you will know he will lead and guide you. And just like I gave the example, when you're going through life's adversities, God will lead and guide you through all of those things as well. You may not see him, you may not know that he's there, but he's there. He's there. Because sometimes we want to act in our own way, in our own manner. But God says, no, not so. Let me lead you to this so that you can appreciate what you've been to. Um, trials come to make us what? Strong. Yeah, exactly. So therefore, when we go through trials and tribulations, it makes us stronger when we come out on the other side. Would anybody like to share any trials or tribulations that you have seen in the passages that Solomon wrote about? And you can go, if you have your Bibles, you can go back to Ecclesiastes 2 through 8. And it's 28 because it's two for everyone. It's four for each verse. Okay. So 2 through 8 is 7 times 4 is 28. Okay. God created the world and he created us to be connected to him. And as I said before, when we are connected to God, that's our source for living. That's our source for making good decisions. There are times when we question the Lord or we wonder why. I won't say we, but we wonder why so many tragic accidents or so much tragedy in the world. But guess what? It's all in God's hands. It's all in God's timing. He didn't cause the destruction to happen. There were people who either chose to make the decision to make some of those tragedies happen or they did it themselves. And but you know what? In the Bible, I learned that God will the wicked shall cease from troubling. So when you have that peace of mind, I believe Reverend Perry said she wanted peace, and she wanted peace to be with her every day, no matter what is going on around her or around us. She wants peace. And when you have peace, you have joy, you have satisfaction, and everything is okay. Even there could be bombs going off here and there or wherever, but when you have peace, you have the peace of God, and it passes all understanding, even in our human frailty. So, getting back to Solomon, wondering about what is life all about. God has a timeline for all of us. We cannot question God, when is my time up or this and that, because that's things that God don't want us to know. But he wants us to live fully in Him. There's a time for everything in the world. There's a time and a season for everything that God created in the world. In the third chapter of Ecclesiastes, um, it states that everything that happens is in God's hands and under His control. In other words, the events and activities of our lives are determined by God's divine timing or the time frame which He determines. God, God is just so awesome. God is awesome. In verses 2 through 8, which are the 28 human experiences that we all go through, whether good or bad, man will be faced with from the time he is born until the time he dies. And that includes women. We refer to men, but we're talking about everybody, that God has control over our lives. We don't have control over our lives, but we have control over what we do, what we think. But God has control over our lives when our time is up. God has control even when the baby is in the process of being born. Okay. And God has control over the time when He taps us on our shoulders and said, your season is up. Okay. All right. And God has control over everything, as I said, from birth to death and all that is in between. God doesn't force you to do something. He gives us a choice, good or bad. Either choice will impact you. There's an expression in school that we use: when you make a good choice, good things will follow you. Um, Congratulations will follow you, but when you make a bad choice, there are consequences. Okay, so I try to invoke that. I try to teach that to the children because I want them to grow up knowing that there's a place for making good choice and a place for making bad choices. You determine. God is not going to tell you, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. God is not going to run you down, track you down to make you make the correct choice, because He's given us the parts of our bodies that we need. He gives us a thinking mind, a heart filled with love or hate or whatever. Remember how Solomon described there's a time to love and a time to hate. Okay. Um, any questions so far? Anybody want to share? Have you looked at those 28 attributes? Because I can go back and go over them. But we all find ourselves in some way or the other having gone through some of the things that Solomon talks about, whether good or bad. Okay. Um, the 28 activities that humans go through that were created by that Solomon said, they signify the human choice to make constructive or destructive decisions. And that is just what I said. Either you can construct something to be good or destruct something to be bad. Okay? Man can either make a good choice or a bad choice. And if he makes either one, as I said before, it leads to joy or sorrow or love and hate. Okay? The power behind the seasons of our love, God uses the events of our lives to accomplish His purpose for our lives. Let me say that again. The power received that the seasons of love brings. God uses the events for our lives to accomplish His purpose for our lives. And I asked the question earlier, what is your purpose? Have you thought about it? I can look at some of you all right now and say and tell you what I think your purpose is. Deacon Bruce is serving the Lord, having his Bible every Sunday, reading up on his Bible, teaching. And Miss Paulette, she loves to teach. She loves to share her wisdom and knowledge with others so that they can grow. Reverend Handsome, he preached a wonderful message last Sunday. He loves preaching. All of our ministers over here, your giftedness that I see in you is service to others, whether it's speaking, whether it's doing, whether it's showing yourself approved. It's all of those things wrapped up in one. Miss Sharon back there, her giftedness is making things. I don't know if she still sews, but she still makes things and they are beautiful. You don't even have to go to Macy's or what is it? Nordstrom's. Nordstrom's because her giftedness, God gave her a gift to use with her hands. I'm looking at Sister Virginia right there. What is her gift? Cooking and baking. All of us have uniqueness. None of us. Oh my goodness, I would dare not get myself propped up behind a sewing machine. It would be horrible. It would be horrible. And Miss Virginia, we can't touch you. We cannot touch you. And Tina, what is your giftedness? And you like to laugh. I know you like to be happy. Okay, that's wonderful. That is wonderful because they need senior citizens need the love that they used to get when they were younger, and a lot of times their families are gone away, and they don't even get a call from them. But you have a gift within you, and Miss Corky has a gift for dancing. I'm not going to call everybody because all of you know what your gift is, and that's what God put in you, your purpose. Your purpose. And as I said, my gift is teaching and working with children, joking with children, making them laugh. Okay. And but anyway, all of us have a gift that God has already planted in us when we came from heaven. Are there any questions? Go home and read and let it marinate in you the things that Solomon said, good, bad, love, hate, all of those things, and let it marinate in you and help you to find out where you are. And that's my lesson for the day. Thank you. Okay.